her teammates to see what are some of their best Caitlin clapbacks or best motivations.
When the 2024 WNBA season tipped off, Lexie Hull was on the verge of becoming an afterthought. Once a prized 6th overall pick in 2022 and a national champion at Stanford, her career looked like it was sputtering out before it had even truly begun. Instead of being groomed as a cornerstone for the Indiana Fever, she was buried deep on the bench, reduced to watching from the sidelines as other role players leapfrogged her in the rotation. Fans began to whisper the painful question, "No young player ever wants to hear." Was Lexie Hull destined to be just another draft bust? A once celebrated prospect gathering dust while the league passed her by? Hull's story is a reminder that talent alone isn't always enough. The leap from college dominance to the pros is brutal. Every player on the floor was the best on their team at some level. Every matchup is against veterans with years of polish. And the Fever, under former coach Christy Sides, were spiraling. Their start to the year was catastrophic, limping to a 1-8 record out of the gate. Rotations were messy, the defense collapsed, chemistry was non-existent, and the headlines turned ruthless. For a franchise already carrying the weight of a long, losing history, the despair grew heavier by the day. Meanwhile, Hull, who had dreamed of being a centerpiece in Indiana, could barely get on the court. Katie Lou Samuelson, Christy Wallace, players with nowhere near her draft pedigree, were eating up her minutes. Every night she sat with a towel draped across her shoulders, trying to smile through disappointment, fighting off the creeping dread that her chance might be slipping away for good. For someone with basketball in her blood, her father and grandfather had both played. Her twin sister had been her fiercest competitor growing up. That reality cut deep.
But she's like, let's go, come on, dive on the floor, whatever it may be.
The journey from Stanford, start a bench warmer, was more than a physical challenge. It was a mental mountain she wasn't sure she could climb, and then came the earthquake. Caitlin Clark arrived in Indiana like a jolt of lightning. She wasn't just a rookie, she was a once-in-a-generation force, the kind of player who didn't just fill seats. She changed the identity of an entire franchise the moment she stepped through the doors. Her presence was magnetic, her game electric, her competitive fire contagious. With Clark on the floor, everything shifted. The Fever suddenly had direction. The offense had purpose. Practices had juice again. Fans flooded arenas. And most importantly, every player's role began to evolve. For Lexie Hull, Clark wasn't just a new teammate. She was a lifeline. Hull later admitted that at first, she didn't even know how to adjust to playing with someone like Caitlin. Clark's passes were so advanced, threading through impossible windows, that Hull sometimes found herself catching the ball when she wasn't even expecting it. Suddenly, every cut mattered. Every sprint in transition was a real scoring opportunity. The game wasn't just opening up, it was rewriting itself in real time. Hull described the moment she realized Clark could fling the ball from the far end of the floor straight into her hands at the rim. That was when she knew everything had changed. But the magic wasn't only in the games under bright lights. It was in the practices behind closed doors where Clark's relentless competitiveness set the tone. Hull revealed that scrimmages stopped being just drills, they became battles. If things broke down, Clark demanded they fix it immediately. No excuses, no shortcuts. Her fire forced everyone to rise with her. Coaches saw it, teammates felt it, and the identity of the Fever began to shift from a stumbling mess to a team with real bite.
Elite game. I loved when she did the John Cena thing. I think that was so cool.
For Hull, that energy was transformative. She had been clinging to the idea of staying ready, grinding in the shadows even when minutes never came. But now she had a reason to believe that work could pay off. Clark's gravity pulled defenders in like moths to a flame, leaving players like Hull wide open to cut, slash, and score. Suddenly, her confidence surged. The Olympic break gave her time to sharpen her jumper and tighten her decision-making, and when she came back, the numbers told the story. Her shooting percentages climbed, her role expanded. She was no longer a forgotten bench piece, she was becoming a clutch contributor, and she wasn't doing it alone. Teammates like Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston provided stability, and Hull spoke glowingly about how much easier they made her job. Surrounded by that kind of talent, she just needed to play her role, cut hard, knock down shots, and defend with intensity. But the truth was clear. Without Caitlin Clark's arrival, Hull might never have had the platform to showcase any of it. Clark's star power didn't just change the offense, it elevated everyone around her, Hull included. The Fever's turnaround was palpable. Sold-out crowds packed arenas, not just in Indiana but across the league. On the road, games felt like home contests because of the sheer volume of fans drawn to Clark and the revitalized Fever. For a team that had been a punchline, the transformation was almost surreal. Hull recalled moments of walking into grocery stores in Indianapolis only to be stopped by fans offering fist bumps and encouragement. The anonymity was gone. Suddenly, she was part of something bigger than herself. Of course, that fame came with a cost. Social media dissected every win and loss, every shot made or missed. Hull admitted the weight of that spotlight could be suffocating at times. The temptation to scroll through comments after a tough game was real, and not all of them were kind. But what kept her grounded was the support system within the Fever locker room. They never turned on each other. They held each other accountable, but they also lifted one another up. That culture of trust became their backbone, allowing them to weather storms without fracturing. And in the middle of it all, Hull's career was being reborn. What once looked like a slow fade into obscurity had turned into a powerful comeback narrative. She credited her growth to patience, to trusting the process even when it felt like the process was failing her. But she didn't shy away from giving credit where it was due. Caitlin Clark was the catalyst. Without Clark's presence, her vision, her gravity, and her leadership, Hull may never have had the chance to prove herself again. By season's end, Indiana was no longer the disaster it had been painted as. Instead, it was one of the most compelling stories in the league. Hull wasn't just surviving, she was thriving, making clutch plays, knocking down shots, and proving she belonged on the floor. The Fever had become a team worth watching, a team with chemistry, belief, and momentum. And at the heart of it all was the unlikely pairing of a struggling young veteran and a rookie phenom who lifted everyone around her. The question now isn't whether Lexie Hull can make it in the WNBA. She's already answered that. The question is how far this Fever team can go with Clark leading the charge, Hull blossoming, and talents like Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell rounding out a roster that suddenly looks like a powerhouse in the making. Can they make the leap? From contender to champion? Can they cement themselves as one of the league's great teams? Time will tell. But one thing is certain. Lexie Hull's career is no longer in danger of fading away. It has been reignited, and the spark came from a once-in-a-lifetime player who walked into Indiana and turned everything upside down. So what do you think? Can the Fever sustain this rise and join the WNBA elite? Has Caitlin Clark's arrival permanently rewritten the future of players like Lexie Hull? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and show your support by typing Lexie Show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss a story like this. Because if this season proved anything, it's that in the WNBA, redemption can come when you least expect it, and one player can change everything.